Hello there. There are very few things in this world that I love more than I love coffee. And hear me out here. Obviously, there are people and other things that I love more, but in terms of pure enjoyment and the joy that it brings me, coffee is pretty high up there. It's an amazing little drink and bean that leads to so many different avenues. And at this point, with how much I've based my career around it, you can tell that I like it quite a bit. In fact, I drink it quite often. Now, there is one thing that does come pretty close to coffee levels of enjoyment for me. That thing is pasta. And I truly mean any type of pasta or noodle for that matter. I don't care what shape it's in. I don't care what is inside it. I do not care what cuisine it's from. It's all delicious and I will eat all of it. No questions asked. Now, thinking about these two things led me to this. If I have two items that bring me a great amount of joy, namely coffee and pasta, would I receive twice the amount of joy if I combined them into one thing? I'd like to answer that today. I'd also really just like to make coffee pasta because being an avid Rhett and Link watcher while growing up, I'm very familiar with the concepts of will it pasta or will it coffee or any of those things. And I thought, let's just put them together. Let's make coffee and pasta as one singular dish. And I did some research of this online and there are a couple recipes that make coffee pasta, and that is coffee being inside the pasta noodles. There are plenty of sauces that involve coffee. That's a whole thing. Coffee is a wonderful bitter flavor that can enhance many other flavors, but I'm talking specifically noodles here. And a couple people have done this, which very much validated my need to do this myself. So I will link the recipes that I'm using as slight inspiration in the description down below, but I'm really kind of freestyling this because after doing some research about how pasta is made and the different ways you can do it, I think I've come up with my own little recipe that should work pretty well. Should is the operative word here, and we're crossing both of our fingers because this could go either very, very right or very, very wrong. Now, when thinking about what sort of pasta shape I wanted to make, I think I want to do tagliatelle. It is a long pasta shape. It is wide and it is flat, and it's very approachable for someone who is a pasta novice, if you will, a pasta apprentice, a pasta padawan even. All my research has told me that it is both a classic and a simple way to make pasta. So we're gonna make that today. I'm also gonna be making a sauce to go with our coffee pasta at the end of today. I'm gonna be making a buttercream sauce with fresh rosemary. That seems like a good combination to me. Fingers crossed. So with that, I think we should get started. Now, the first thing we're starting off with is 260 grams of a very fine unbleached flour. This flour, because of how fine it is going to allow us to have a really smooth, just really clean pasta texture at the end. Now, the next ingredient we have is finely ground coffee. This is a medium roast. This is 30 grams and it's a single origin from Guatemala. It's a really nice, like lightly kind of fruity sweet coffee. It's kind of got some of those like stone fruit qualities. It's nice. It's a good middle of the road coffee. Now, I've ground this on the absolute finest setting my grinder will go on because I'm aiming to have it be at least somewhat the same consistency as our flour. It's not exactly there, so I imagine we're gonna get a little bit of that texture, a little bit of that kind of crunch from the coffee, but it's as close as it's going. The next major thing we have is 2 large eggs. That is 2 yolks and 2 whites of the egg together. Additionally, I have added 3 egg yolks. So this is gonna be kind of a little bit more traditional fresh egg pasta recipe. And that's pretty much it to start with. The last thing I have is salt because we will be adding a pinch of salt to our dough. Let's make some pasta coffee dough. First thing I'm gonna do is just really make sure my workspace is clean. We're gonna be working directly on the countertop today. I'm both nervous and excited as always. I have never made fresh pasta dough myself, so this is a first for me. It's also a first of making coffee pasta dough. So a lot of things could go wrong, but a lot of things could also go very, very right. Before I spread this out on the counter, I am gonna fully mix together my flour and my finely ground coffee. I'm just gonna use a fork because that seems like the best implement here. I'm also at this point gonna add just like a little crack and a half of salt. Now the fun begins. There's something very freeing about just doing things directly on the countertop. It feels like I shouldn't be able to just work on the countertop like this. This feels like I'm a kid and I'm doing something bad, but I'm an adult and I'm making coffee pasta, which I think is a good thing. I've watched so many pasta cooking videos and how to make pasta videos that just doing this, making the little divot in the center, so fun. Then in go our eggs. Crack the egg yolks and we start mixing. Slowly just pulling in flour from around the edges. Now that our egg yolk is at least mostly combined and pulled into our flour, I'm just gonna start kneading by hand. feels like I've been kneading forever. It's probably just been a couple minutes, but we are starting to get a fully formed, just like ball of homogeneous dough here. So we're on the right path. Note to self, will not need to do upper body workout today. I feel like I'm sweating a little bit too. That's what I get for wearing a turtleneck in the middle of August. Coffee break. Part of me is curious because I'm gonna be boiling this pasta. Should I drink the pasta water too? Because in theory, we're gonna have some level of extraction into the pasta water from the coffee. Really depends on what color the water is gonna be at the end of this. I now have what I think is a pretty good recreation of some pasta dough. This needs to chill for a while, so I'm going to wrap it up and stick it in the fridge. While we do that, let's get everything set up for rolling out the pasta, and let's also get our stuff ready for our sauce. Additionally, while we let our pasta dough rest for a bit, I wanna give a huge thank you to the partner of today's video, Yamazaki. I've received a lot of questions about the background of my videos, which is in fact my kitchen. Because I use it as a set along with everyday use, I've had to prioritize finding pieces that are both useful and appealing to the eye, blending function with style. Both my partner and I have been huge fans of Yamazaki Home for a long time, which is why it's so exciting to be able to talk about them as being the sponsor of today's video. Yamazaki is a family-owned Japanese business that has been creating unique, elegant homeware products for over 100 years. They started out in the very beginning as a small ironing board manufacturer over a century ago, but have evolved to create many things that you see in my videos every single week. Some of my favorite pieces include their pour-over dripper stand, their coffee filter holder, and their countertop shelf. But if you keep an eye out, you'll see even more that I use every day. Yamazaki is universally recognized for bringing simplicity, quality, and elegant design to the items you use every day. And if you'd like to learn more, head down to the top link in the description. And thank you again to Yamazaki for making today's video possible. Okay, let's get cleaned up. While that's chillaxing in the fridge, let's get our fresh rosemary ready, like a tiny Christmas tree. I'm just gonna go for what feels right, and then I will let you know what my feeling right amount is. For the sake of measurement, I have just under 5 grams of rosemary here. There is deep fear in me anytime I do any sort of kitchen technique because I am no chef. I've worked in kitchens before, but technique is not something I excel in. So if you would like to offer any advice or constructive criticism, if you will, about either my knife technique or anything else I've done today, you are more than welcome to, with the context that I don't know what I'm doing. I could make you a mean cup of coffee. I could probably pour you a swan in your latte, but do I know how to cut herbs correctly? No. If enough of you sign my not yet created petition, I am willing to rename my channel to Morgan Cuts Herbs for the right price. Right back into our bowl. I also saw somewhere online the other day that you're not supposed to scrape your knife blade over the top of your cutting surface. I fully believe that, but at this point it's a terrible habit that I don't think I'm gonna break. Let's get our pasta maker set up. This is very exciting. Okay, so I have it on the widest setting right now because I'm guessing this is gonna take a couple passes to get our pasta down to the, like, it's not the width, right? It's the thickness, the thinness of what we need today. Got some chili, I don't see, dough to handle. I'm gonna start by cutting this thing into fourths. You just want to take a big bite out of that. Now the granules of coffee are definitely larger than our flour granules, which is absolutely, at this point I can see, going to give us kind of a different, kind of a rougher texture to our pasta. Fingers crossed that it doesn't impede the process of rolling it out or not, but I guess that's what we're about to find out. What I'm gonna do now is form this into a rough ball, flatten this out slightly, and then we're just gonna make our first pass through our pasta maker. I'm gonna try to make kind of a rectangular shape as I flatten this out. It's working. This is so exciting. However, energy level wise, I'm a little tired. I wonder if I still have that coffee I used last week. This coffee is advertised as having 1,555 milligrams of caffeine per 12-ounce cup. That's so much, which means a 12-ounce cup of this is 6 times your average cup of coffee. I think we put it through again. We're running into some issues. Now, my dough is breaking apart very easily. The more times I put it through this pasta maker, the more it's kind of like losing its integrity and coming apart. And I think my theory is the reason that that's happening is because of how much larger the coffee granules are compared to the fine flour granules. Because of that shape difference, this dough is having a hard time maintaining its elasticity and its kind of overall integrity the more, processing I put it through. I think I'm going to cut my losses. I think we're gonna just kind of hand shape the rest of this. We're gonna cut it up into what we need to do. They're just gonna be kind of thicker, fluffier noodles, and I think that's fine. So they're not the prettiest thing in existence, but they are pasta and they do have coffee in them. I'm just gonna make the rest and we'll continue from there. Currently, my levels of joy are diminishing. Doubt is creeping into my mind about what I've embarked on, but we're not done yet. This still has the potential of being very good, I think, maybe. Yeah. It looks leathery. Hang on, I think I figured out the technique. Already, this is going way better. I think I did a better thing. Now we trifold it. This looks like more what I was aiming for. This is so exciting. This is my coffee pasta noodle that I have created the second time around. As you can see, much thinner, much more pasta-like. Compare that to this monster that I did the first time around, which is like half as long and about twice as thick. So I think this will be our good batch. And out comes our pasta noodle. Now, for the sake of any and all Italians watching this video, I'm no longer gonna call this tagliatelle. I think that is doing a disservice to the pasta. However, we do have a noodle of some type, which is good. It's in tagliatelle inspired. It's fettuccine inspired even. And I do think it is now time to put this truly to the test. So I have 2 servings of coffee pasta here. I've discarded our original one because I think that was an abomination. I think that was our test run, and I don't think we should actually try cooking. I think these 2 have the most likely chances for survival. That feels like the right word. So let's head over to our stove. Let's get some sauce going and let's get some boiling water going. Welcome to the stovetop angle. So the first thing we're gonna do is make our rosemary sauce alongside getting our water started for boiling. I'm gonna be making a roux for the base of this. So equal parts butter and flour. In my case, I am doing 2 tablespoons of butter alongside 2 tablespoons of flour. And I am melting this over a slightly lower heat because I don't want to burn or even really brown my butter. I just want it melty. As soon as it melts, I am adding my flour and then whisking together. Okay, so I'm gonna cook this together and keep it moving until it's a slightly darker brown. Really all I'm trying to do is get that raw flour taste out of it. I've now added about 2/3 cup of heavy whipping cream, and I'm gonna continue stirring to incorporate my roux into my heavy whipping cream to thicken the sauce. This is also your chance to add in your fresh rosemary. As my sauce thickens, I am going to add some freshly cracked pepper. You need some salt. We're getting there. The rosemary is really nice and aromatic. For the moment, I'm gonna remove this from heat. We're gonna set it in the back. It's time to focus on our noodles. So order of operations for this last part, because I think it's gonna go pretty quickly. Because I have way more sauce than I do noodles, I think what I'm gonna do is cook off my noodles in this boiling water here. I'm then gonna transfer them plus the appropriate amount of sauce into this extra saucepan. I'm then gonna finish the cooking process and get it all mixed in with the sauce here, and then we will plate it up and serve it. Oh, we'll also save some of our pasta water to finish off our sauce. Here goes nothing. My pasta noodles are now floating all on the surface. I don't want them to cook all the way through because again, our sauce will continue cooking them. If you will, just pretend this isn't see-through, but I present to you my coffee pasta. Now, all in all, appearance-wise, this looks pretty decent. At least it looks way better than I thought it would when we were at kind of that rolling out, leathery skin looking phase. Like I felt a little bit like a serial killer with what we were rolling out. This came together pretty nicely. When I was boiling it, it acted like pasta. It seemed to cook through correctly. So I'm excited to give this a taste, but before we do that, I did cook and set aside a singular noodle just to get an understanding of what the pasta tastes like on its own without any of our like cream sauce going on. So here's that noodle. Now texture-wise, this has a very grainy texture, very similar to buckwheat. It's not unpleasant actually, it's really nice. It's just got more of a bite to it than a really, really smooth classic pasta noodle might. Now flavor-wise, this gets kind of interesting because there's a definite added flavor of the coffee into this. In fact, it's less so that you can distinctly taste it as coffee and more so that you have a really nice added bitterness to the like fluffy creaminess of the original noodle texture. It balances the texture with flavor. They go kind of hand in hand here, which is really nice. Honestly, technique aside, I kind of like this noodle. I'm very excited to try this. So let's get a fork, let's dig in. What are you ever supposed to do with a garnish? I put it on because I think it improves the look of the dish tenfold, but like, I don't think I've ever eaten a garnish on any dish that I've ever received. Now, I do think I need to make this recipe again just to improve my noodle technique because I think it would benefit from like a slimmer noodle, perhaps. Not quite the chunky ones that I've created here today. Here goes nothing. I might have done something here. This is very, very good. I think the cream sauce was really the right way to go. I think you could potentially get away with like a thicker brown butter sauce potentially, but I think you really do need to have like a heavier sauce to these noodles because the kind of bitter coffee-ish flavor that I mentioned when just eating the noodle raw really still does come through in the dish. And it's really nice to have those added like fats and just creamy textures and flavors to kind of like balance this out. I think it could have benefited from a little bit more salt. I'll be totally honest, I was afraid to add salt to this because in my head, coffee usually equals sweet things or like some sort of dessert. So adding it to a savory dish seemed a little bit strange to me, even though like, I mean, it makes sense. It's a bitter flavor. In there, if I made this again, I think I do need to add more salt. However, on a whole, this is very nice. Technique on my noodles is lacking, of course, but we knew that going into this. I think with a little bit of refinement, this is a good dish. This is very tasty. So back to my question that I asked earlier. Does combining pasta and coffee bring me just that much more joy when they're put together rather than having them separately? Honestly, yeah. This was so much fun. I don't know if my joy about the flavor of this dish is equivalent or greater than my joy for just coffee and pasta separately, but the fact that this worked and this turned into something, you know, even edible, let alone good, is just mind-blowing to me. I'm so thrilled about that. So in the infamous words of Rhett and Link, will coffee pasta? Yes, I think coffee definitely pastas. And I am very excited to go finish off the rest of this. And in fact, I still have another serving of this that I get to make and then go like inflict on someone that lives in my house, which is also very exciting. Until next time, I am Morgan Drinks Coffee on all places that I'm active on. I post content on TikTok and Instagram almost every single day, and you can find me here once a week for longer videos and also another time once a week for shorts. So I guess you can find me here twice a week on YouTube. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. I am having a great day. This honestly made my day so much better. So I'm gonna go finish this and I'll see you next week for more coffee shenanigans. Have a good day, everyone.